Welcome to 13. Let's go! So the past 2 weeks, we have discussed DoorDash. 2 weeks ago, we discussed the new telematics in detail. And last week, we discussed DebtDash. I have decided that let's make this the conclusion. Let's have this be the trilogy. Does that mean I won't talk about DoorDash anymore? Absolutely not. And those of you that know, I'll talk about all the platforms. I always do. Right now, DoorDash is the one that we need to really look into. You guys know that I deal with a lot of lawmakers, a lot of legislation that's coming, and DoorDash has definitely restirred the waters on what was on, in some states, what was going to be not too bad of legislation. And now, this often happens, but sometimes it takes a catalyst. And DoorDash has definitely been that catalyst. To every lawmaker I've spoken with, DoorDash has been that catalyst. The link to last week's 13 will be in the show notes here, so go ahead, look in there to find it if you did not see it. Also, take time while you're listening and watching to read the comments. Comments have come in through, I think there's almost 400 that have come in from everywhere in the country. These are top dashers. These are any type of dasher, bottom feeders like me, like whatever, all saying the same thing. It's dead. It's dead. I mean, there were like 2 comments in there that said it's not dead in my market, but it's not what it was and it sucks. So even the 2 that weren't saying it's not dead weren't saying it's alive. So let me move on here a little bit. There's also a link in the description to Lou and Mary, the Long Island Dash Experience. They did a reaction to my last week's 13, and I think that they added a nice little touches on there that kind of back some of my points. So luckily, through a lot of the people I work with and through the connections I've made and whatnot, I have access to quite a database of drivers to reach out to. Often when I'm getting my research for the podcast and for other things, I am reaching out to drivers on many different topics. So I might send out an email to people that I know in certain markets who are probably going to most relate to what that content is. And I'll send them like 4 or 5 questions in an email and see where it goes. The last 2 weeks I've been very focused on DoorDash. Even with all this other stuff going on, which we will move back to next week. But I've been talking to dashers around the country, top dashers, like I said, bottom feeders, doesn't matter, all of them. Talked to probably close to a couple hundred, actually. And even talked to, when I was in Austin this week, even talked to a couple of people there. And Luis, Delivery TV, came up from Houston. And it was great to see him. And him and I had a heart-to-heart about where DoorDash is at, even in his community. And same story. It's overwhelmingly, almost everyone that I've spoken with has said DoorDash is dead in their market. Now, again, doesn't matter your status. Tiers, top dash, whatever, it's dead. What people need to understand is it would be slow anyway. It would, like most of us think Uber Eats is slow, right? It would be slow anyway because food delivery has gotten tremendously expensive. Inflation is through the roof. Things are tough right now. So people who barely could afford it before and now all these prices are jacked can't afford it. I think that part of the biggest issue is that DoorDash has a way of putting blinders on and pretending like, oh, drivers, they're not a problem. Oh, that's not a problem. Problem is that now they've pissed off the drivers. They've definitely pissed off the customers. Customers are very aware of what DoorDash is doing. And I've spoken with restaurants. I'm actually going to be doing some pieces. They'll be short. They'll be like, whatever each place will give me, but I've got some lined up where I'm going to try and do one a week going into a restaurant and asking their experience with DoorDash. And there's a reason for this, so stay tuned on that. But unlike in the past, when DD is slow, the majority of people that I've been speaking with, we've said, hey, we've dealt with slow market before, we've dealt with this, maybe your market in the summer is slow, maybe your market in the summer is raging, maybe you're a destination location. But all of those in play with the veteran drivers, they're all saying it ain't coming back. And I got to say, look, we can just look at the math. We don't need to hear people's opinions. You can listen to people's opinions, but let's look at the facts. The facts are the order volume on DoorDash is so down. They're not even close. Not only are they not gaining anymore, but they've dropped dramatically. The orders just aren't there. So if you're a dasher saying like I saw many comments, I used to see 30 a day, even if they weren't good. Now I'm lucky to see 2 even just bad offers a day. If you're one of those, just know that there's not as many people ordering. The food, during the pandemic, that was the height, that was the raise. But now we're in inflation, all these other issues, and they've exuberated the prices. People can't afford this service anymore. People have also got turned on to, the fact that once you start treating your customers poorly, passing along fees and regulatory fees and things like that and making them line items to your customers and really not caring about the service they receive. I don't know where, again, maybe I'm old school, but I don't know any business that doesn't make sure the customer is happy, except for DoorDash. Again, Uber and stuff, they're not great at it either. However, they do try and work with people who have complaints. Now, that's a whole nother story because a lot of people have a lot of complaints that aren't valid. So, let's go through some of the issues real quick here. For years, DoorDash has taken oversaturation to a whole new level. All these apps do it, but DoorDash, last we knew, they were at just over 12 million people have dashed. When I was talking to Luis when I was in Texas, Delivery TV, he had got some stats, and DoorDash is over 7 million active dashers right now. Okay, well, there's 170 million people who work in the United States. The workforce in the United States is 170 million. So 7 million do DoorDash, even part-time? Okay, so that's a problem one. They have repeatedly not followed court orders. Yes, there's been a lot. They're dodging legislation, and they're not Uber guys. They can't give free rides to elections and free rides to doctor's visits and stuff to people to help offset a city's anger at this platform. They don't have that ability. They are a food delivery dispatch system. That's all. They're not tech. They're not doing anything to help people. They've been caught and found guilty in court of stealing tips from dashers on 2 occasions. This is a company who went to defend the fact that they were stealing tips and why. That's a whole nother story. These are all things you guys can go look up too, so don't think I'm not getting into it. I just have my time limit here today. I'm 13. Their use of the top dasher and tier system breaks state and federal laws protecting independent contractors. And they do this way more than any other app out there. Let's see. Acceptance rating that determines how the app works for each individual dasher. That breaks the independent contractor rule in every state. Wrongful deactivations seem to coincide from the research I'm doing right now with other people too. We're doing this together, and acceptance or wrongful deactivation seem to coincide with being a veteran dasher. So let me put it this way. They do not like drivers who have been with them for a year or 2 years and have done a lot of dashes because they think you understand it too well. And there's no way that you came on 2 years ago and are happy with it now. So usually you're rewarded for being a veteran or a good, a positive force for the company. So maybe you're like a great dasher, but the more dashes you get, the more likely you are to be deactivated for no reason. Most recently, and this is a huge one. This is what really pissed the lawmakers off and got back on the dockets to reevaluate a lot of things. The use of telematics. Without a doubt, this one, I haven't even heard one person say that it can even be challenged, because clearly in every single state in this country, DoorDash, you have broken the independent contractor terms. Your TOS checkbox does not supersede state and federal law that says you cannot be tracking independent contractors. Telematics is them selling off your data of how you travel, how you brake, how you accelerate, and who knows how they're doing it. My other question that we'll address down the road is, what company are they using to do telematics? I can't find that out yet. Most importantly, DoorDash is the easiest app to get on, from background checks to people using illegal accounts to not caring about their customers' safety. This app has become trash. Most people are aware of it, and most people have pushed it to the bottom of their multi-apping. I've spoken with hundreds of drivers, as I said. All of them seem to be in agreement on how this is going. Now, while DoorDash is doing awful things to its dashers, customers, and yes, the restaurants too, delivery app volume being down across the board, and of course drivers want more pay, but with the amount that customers are being charged, how do we get more pay? You'd have to bring down the amount you're charging customers again after waiting this long to raise it in the first place, and then find a way to reconstruct how you're going to pay these drivers. Because I'm not saying they need to make $1 million, but you need to make it so they can make money. You do. And that leads me to the last point here. To cut down on illegal accounts, Uber Eats is using facial recognition about 10 times as much as they were a month ago. Now, I know Uber Eats doesn't have quite the volume in this country, but the facial recognition is important because of the illegal accounts. With DoorDash dying off, are you seeing more Uber Eats offers in your market? And the final question I have for all of you, DoorDash, you pushed everyone too far. So is there a path back where customers can afford the service and where drivers can make money? Leave it in the comments, people. And that's 13 minutes of gig news in just under 13 minutes. Have a great weekend. Peace.